Hello, folks. Welcome to the Sticky Floor podcast. We finally settled on a name. Caused a lot of arguments, but hey ho. Uh, I'm Callum, and joining me is Daniel and Sima. Say hello, Daniel and Sima.
Hi.
Hello, Daniel and Simon.
Hey, there we go. Every week, one of us will recommend the other two to watch a film, and we'll discuss it. This week, it's my recommendation: 1965's. What are we watching? Yeah, is the Ipcress File. It's a British spy thriller starring Michael Caine, directed by Sidney J. Fury, and based on the Len Deighton novel. Plot as follows. In London, a counter-espionage agent deals with his own bureaucracy whilst investigating the kidnapping and brainwashing of British scientists. I said scientists a bit weird there. So guys, Daniel, what did you think?
What did I think? I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fucking great for what it set out to do. An espionage film that was gritty and basically an alternative version to a Bond flick. It was fucking amazing. What about you, Simon?
I loved it. I don't like spy movies that much. I'm not big on them, but I really enjoyed this because it's kind of like the anti-Bond in a way,
Yeah.
which I really liked. It's kind of it really shows the limits you have because of bureaucracy, which kind of takes out a fantastical element I always find very unrealistic in Bond.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, I saw it for the first time maybe last year. Yeah, I just quite like. I kind of like sort of the downbeat, sort of monotonous element to it. It sort of shows
Yeah.
how reality it's very tedious being a spy. There's a lot of waiting about. There's a lot of watching people, and it's there's no birds, there's no
Yeah.
gadgets, there's no Aston Martin. It's just a man in a bed sitting a telescope. Yeah.
Yeah, I like.
Right, so first things first, let me just get the plot in front of us so we know where we're going to. I'm kind of surprised that you liked it as much as you did. I kind of thought one of you is going to find it quite boring, but it's good to hear.
I definitely didn't find it quite boring. I do have one gripe, which is to do with Michael Caine's character, but we can get into that later on.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it was the title sequence that really drew me in because before that I was kind of skeptical rather of it, and then once the title sequence kind of came in, I was like, okay, I'm in for this. I like this.
Yeah.
It was bold the way it introduced Big Mikey Caine, just fucking with coffee, and also the 30-second alarm clock. Although I didn't enjoy it, I mean, it's a bold move, and I'm up for it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, that's what I like about it. He just wakes up and the introduction is just him making coffee. Although the first odd thing that stood out to me about that wee intro sequence whilst the credits roll was he poured his coffee too soon. As soon as he put the hot water in, he plunged it instantly instead of waiting for it.
Yeah, that annoyed me as well because I was like, because I just made some coffee as well with my French press, and I was watching it and I was like, really? You're gonna do it straight after?
Yeah, I'm guessing they just did that so not to break up the flow of the sequence.
But I have noticed they do that a lot in film and TV. Whenever there's a cafetiere on screen or something, it's always they plunge it straight away.
Yes.
And it's a tiny nitpicky detail, but it's it just kind of takes you out of it a little bit.
Yeah. In fact, I've got one of the interesting bit of trivia for that is what is it? It's to do with a coffee pot.
Well, there was a sale for. Are you going to talk about how Michael Caine's kitchen was up for auction?
Oh no, I wasn't. I didn't actually know that. I was going to say that Harry, that's the main character. He's called Harry Palmer. His coffee pot is an Insta brewer. The executive producer, Charles Day Casher, owned the patent for the product, and Sir Michael Caine appeared in a print ad for it, which I have a picture here. It's not a great quality photo. I'm guessing this was in a magazine or something back in the day. Let me just get it up. Talk amongst yourselves. You cannot minimize Zoom when you're.
Are we gonna show video for this? Like,
no, we can just. I just thought we'd just have like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reference.
Yeah, we should have discussed this in the meeting before we started recording. Sorry, guys, we're very new to this. Amateurs, so we are.
All right, I can just cut this bit out.
Yeah. Okay, I thought I had the picture here, but never mind.
Very professional.
Yeah. Michael, Daniel, you were about to say something about Michael Caine's character.
What, like my main gripe with the character?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the only thing. Well, there was a couple of other things, but my main problem with it was he was supposed to be working class. He was supposed to be not
a public schoolboy.
Yeah, exactly. But Michael Caine, when I looked at his performance, that I did not think, oh, this guy, he's made it for he's risen from the bottom kind of thing. I think he talks like the Queen's English. I mean,
he still had a bit of his accent. Like Michael Caine is from a working class background.
Yeah. And you got to remember the times it was filmed in. Like, this isn't like the accents evolve over time as well as over location, and there were certain things that were acceptable and unacceptable in media at the time as well. So he can be working class, but he has to be palatably working class.
Yeah, I mean,
on you go.
I was going to say there are people like talking with their own accents in the film. So, but he is also the hero. So, if this is, I suppose they had to tone his accent down a bit for an international audience.
Yeah, it goes for pretty much anything when it comes to like a protagonist in a kind of like, not really an action, but like something that's kind of like supposed to be like widely like enjoyed. Like they have to tone down certain elements of like their background or their personality, because they have to not only act as like our protagonist but are way into this world, and like you have to be able to relate to them, and
yeah, well, that's the thing.
the
I didn't relate
classes find uncomfortable in that.
Yeah, that's the thing. I didn't relate to him, but I take your point that films that were made in the 60s aren't going to have like proper working class accents in them, so fair enough.
No, there are films.
There are films
like that in the 60s.
Like
in the 60s, yeah.
Yeah, there are a good few examples.
What's the one about the scooters?
Quadrophenia.
Yeah,
well, that was made in the 70s, but it's just set in the 60s.
Like early 70s though.
No, 79.
Right? Shit.
All right. Well, that's the problem I have with like some of Hitchcock's stuff as well. Is although it's fucking ace, is everyone talks like
they've got a carrot up their arse.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, it's just that old style of acting where I'm guessing a lot of people would have come out
Mid-Atlantic. It's the Mid-Atlantic accent that was really popular back then, because it's about palatability, because there was so much that was just not allowed, but like
yeah,
not accessible.
Yeah,
and a lot of do you agree with that?
Well, the thing is, I think it also has to do with the fact is, if you watch old films, like especially from the 30s and 40s, where everybody talks in a very quick way, like this, right? Like this, it's theatre acting. So a lot of these people, it's coming from this, because when you're on stage, you have to project. So you're always talking like this, that kind of way. So it's that style of acting, and it's evolved over time, and new techniques and new. So
yeah, sure. I mean, it was not just the acting that annoyed me.
Yeah, that did kind of annoy me. Sorry, were you about to say something, Simon?
Sorry. Yeah, the Carry On films.
Yeah.
They allow working class accents. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm still caught up on that.
Well,
said James.
It wasn't just the accent that annoyed me. For example, do you know a working class person that listens to Bach or Mozart? Like,
there'll be some.
Think so?
Then again,
yes.
But that's the thing. But another interesting thing about him, he's supposed to be like a bit of a foodie or a gourmet, as they would have said back then.
Yeah.
And he also, him drinking coffee, it was actually quite it was actually, even in the mid-60s, it was quite niche for British
Yeah,
people to drink coffee. So
I was quite surprised by that scene because it was like in the 60s and it was very uncommon back then.
but then
Like,
again, he was the army. But yeah, sorry, go on.
yeah, no, I don't really have anything to add. It was just quite surprising. Like, despite like my enjoyment of like the title sequence, I've always like quite taken aback by that because like so often, especially even like films that are set in the 60s now, so often it's depicted like it's just like, you know, like a cup of tea is representative of more than a cup of tea, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So like
Yeah,
I think it was quite like, oh no, it's aged quite well in the kind of like kind of underlining of this who this character is with
yeah,
just like a cup of coffee, just like making coffee.
yeah. Because it also, I mean, it's stated that he was in the well, he is technically in the army. He's in the Ministry of Defence, which is a branch of the army, and he was stationed in Berlin before before the film started. So,
Yeah.
you know, you pick stuff up, you travel. That's what happens when you're in the army.
Yeah.
One thing, there's a scene where he makes an omelette. In fact, I think there's more than one scene where he makes an omelette. He makes a lot of omelettes in this film.
He does.
Yeah, there's a bit where when he's making the omelette and he's just started, and then you go back to the fort. Then there's a shot of the board, and there's just this massive pile of chopped onion, like he seems to have chopped in a very short space of time. Did you
Impressive,
notice
yeah.
that?
Yeah. I can't say I did, but I'll probably notice it if I watch it again.
Yeah, that was actually a wee bit of trivia. That was actually the novelist, the author, the writer who the book, whose novel the book is based on, Len Dayton's hands when he's actually chopping the. Apparently, he was an accomplished chef.
Oh wow.
More you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I think so. Did he also chop the peppers? Because that's one thing I noticed was the pepper chopping was pretty sublime.
yeah. The close up, all the close ups of the chopping board were Len Dayton's hands. There you go. Anyway, I feel like we're not actually talking about what happens in this film, so I should introduce it. So Harry Palmer is, how do I describe him? He works for the Ministry of Defence in a very lowly situation. He was a sergeant in the army, but he was engaged in some low-key criminal activity, and was going to serve time in a military prison, but was poached by his superior, Colonel Roston. So the film starts out with a scientist named Radcliffe who's on a train, is kidnapped from a train, and the security escort is killed. What did you think of that opening sequence?
Simon?
Sorry.
I liked it. It was a bit run of the mill for me though, but like that's not a bad thing. I wasn't, like I said earlier, I wasn't really like pulled in until the title sequence, and then that's like when I started like kind of actively being enticed by it. But it did like set up a good like, you know, set up the film well. I don't have any qualms with it.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed that a lot. I thought the camera direction in that scene, and then throughout the entire scene, I thought it was stellar, like pretty much perfect.
Yeah.
I don't think you could have done anything better. So, and especially in that scene, the pan away for the train to the dead body of, or not the dead body, but the Radcliffe's body. It was beautiful.
No, that wasn't Radcliffe's body. That was his escort who was killed. You mean the guy who was like the body in the luggage?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was his escort.
That was his escort. Aye, sorry.
Yeah, kind of one thing, I suppose. I mean, this is a nitpick. I can suspend my disbelief, but it's kind of strange how they managed to kill a guy, then drag him out on an open platform, then get back on a train without anybody noticing.
Yeah, bit sus, but you know, it's spy thriller. It's really good.
Yeah. Speaking of spy thrillers, I was going to ask, are either of you Bond fans? Do you like Bond movies? Daniel?
Some.
Yeah.
And my favourite is probably everyone's favourite, Casino Royale.
Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of the old ones, there's a couple of standouts, but I wouldn't say like that's my favourite franchise or anything like that. Nah.
No. Yeah. I got to confess, I've not seen any of the Daniel Craig ones. Yeah, and I have seen. Yeah, I have seen most of them. I remember when I was young, so this would have been like 2000 or something. ITV did this thing where they just showed all the Bond films back to back over several weeks. So like, every Tuesday night a Bond film would be on, starting with Doctor No. So I ended up seeing most of them. But oh, run.
Oh, we
Sorry,
got
just
10 minutes.
yeah. So I saw most of them, and yeah, I found them quite a lot of them just formulaic. Goes to a place, there's one woman, and then there's another woman, and one woman is either killed or she's working for the baddies, and he goes off with the other bird, and it's just cut and paste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of it either. It's not like I actively dislike them. Like, I can sit down and watch it, but it's just one of those franchises I don't find myself caring for.
Yeah.
I wonder how it will adapt to the new times, just in terms of he's a womanizer, and that was pretty glorified back in the day. But now, I mean, if someone's like he's basically like the Barney Stinson of the movie world in terms of the way he's just like using and abusing these women.
Yeah, I know. He must be riddled
so I
as
wonder
well.
I wonder where they'll take the character in the new one, if they'll keep with that or not.
Yeah. Well, isn't Daniel Craig's sort of supposed to be a bit like, more serious, a bit less kind of, sexy?
I think Daniel Craig is pretty sexy. Fun
fact,
what
I mean?
My middle name is actually Craig, so there you go.
But what I mean? It's not like the ones where like women, hello, would you like to have sex with me? I'm James Bond, and then she blows up. That's what they're like.
Yeah, that's a great description.
Yeah, it's not like that. He's not like as smooth as he is. Well, smooth by the standards of the 1960s.
Yeah,
so pretty smooth.
Still pretty smooth.
Yeah. Anyway, so there is a bit of womanizing, and I mean, there's only one. Well, there's more than one woman, but there's only one female character, really one proper female character in the entire film. She's not even really much of a character, to be honest.
Yeah,
no, it's a caricature.
Yeah, and you see,
there was. She just wasn't really there, but she stood her purpose, I guess. She's like,
and Harry, yeah. Harry Palmer's character, he is a bit of a womanizer. He's not like ultra smooth like James Bond, but he's got an eye for the birds. Like that's
it kind of reminded me about Hannibal at some points with the cooking scenes. Just slightly uncomfortable.
Yeah,
but maybe that's just been watching a lot of Hannibal. Not like in a uncomfortable, just like slightly eerie. But like that might just be because I've been watching a lot of shite TV recently.
Yeah, well, a couple of things you touched on there. In terms of the woman character, she was like my least favourite part of the film because there was nothing to her, and it was just a bit disappointing. I watched the Marlon Brando flick on the waterfront just before I watched Ipcress Files, and I found a female Ipcress File, sorry, and I found the female protagonist in that one really strong. So it was disappointing to then go and watch another one. It was just a bit,
it's quite a contrast.
Yeah, and then I was going to ask, do you guys think that Michael Caine is smooth? He's supposed to be smooth and cool in this film. Do you think he is?
Well, he's a bit more smarmy and sarky, and because and he was.
I don't know.
I don't know, Simon. 1965 Michael Caine. What do you reckon?
I mean, not for me personally. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I did enjoy his character, but he's just a bit. I mean, he's just a bit smarmy. He's just kind of, I don't know, Hannibal vibes, man. It's that cooking thing. It's just slightly uncomfortable, but I do like the character. Just,
yeah. I thought he was a bit goofy, but like in a kind of lovable way. Like even when he was making the coffee at the start, I was like, this guy's a bit. I don't know if he's supposed to be goofy, but he is a wee bit.
I think he's more supposed to be like,
I think it's the specs.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. The reason for the specs is because Michael Caine felt that he would be, this role would become. I think this is one of his first big roles. I'm not too sure, but like this, he might get typecast or he might become too associated with this role. So he wore specs for it so that he wouldn't have to wear specs for any other role. So basically, it was to make him distinctive from any other part.
I also
Yeah.
read something that's why
I just quite like that.
the writer's done that intentionally so it was more relatable. Because who wears glasses and is like a spy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
I did like the glasses. I'm
yeah.
not gonna lie. As a specky person myself, it's nice to see specky people in films
Yeah.
that
I mean,
aren't just
they
like the
should have
nerd on the
called,
computer.
yeah, they should have called the movie The Specky Spy, but I'll forgive them.
Okay. Well, we've got a bit of
That would have
trivia
been
about the
class.
specs. So, Harry's glasses frames were dark brown, contrary to the widely held view that they were black. They were style called, probably not even pronouncing this right, Teviot, or Teviot. Teviot, it's probably French, something, Teviot.
EVR?
Yep.
Tevia 74, manufactured by a company called UK Optical. They were already popular at the time for being stylish and inexpensive alternative to the standard models that were issued for free by the National Health Service in the UK.
NHS specs.
Yeah. They became
Yeah,
even more
Mum had them.
popular. Yeah, they became even more popular after the success of the film. Lynn Dayton wore the same frames at the time. Those frames have been described by some as the first affordable designer frames available in the UK. There you go.
Now that's a bit of trivia.
I spec glasses history.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
Right, so on with the plot. So Harry Palmer, British Secret Army sergeant with criminal past, now working for the Ministry of Defence, is summoned by his superior, Colonel Ross, and transferred to a section headed by Major Dolby. This is one thing I like that set it apart. Like, there's no it's all very mundane. You know what I mean? He's just kind of, you know what I mean? He's kind of just doing it for a job. Like, even when they go in, he's not actually paid very much for his job, even though there's lots of risks that go along with it. Yeah.
I did like the kind of realism of that and the kind of cynicism, like in contrast to the Bond franchise.
Yeah.
And like just the needless bureaucracy of it all.
Yes. Make lots of references to different paperworks, an L101.
Yeah. When they're when he's on the phone to the the police guy and they're going through the different like file classifications and like his like what was it, like not allowance, it's just like his
wage?
No, not his wage. Like his classification or whatever. Like,
okay.
What
scene was
he's
this?
allowed to see or not. When he's on the phone
his
to copper,
B1. Basically his record. His file.
That. So when they're going through all of that, it was good. It was funny and sarcastic. That's it.
What did you think of the acting of the other actors, funnily enough?
I thought it was decent.
Yeah.
Like, not really standout performances. I wouldn't say anything was like incredible, but like none of them were bad, I don't think.
I felt
On you go.
I was going to say, I felt Michael Caine, he was a bit wooden in some parts, especially when he was delivering some lines in that staccato way that Michael Caine tends to talk. Like near the end, when he finds out that he's being framed, and he says to Major Dolby, "Don't you understand? I've been framed," and there's no kind of sense of urgency or fear in his voice. Like, that kind of took me out of it a bit.
Yeah, I didn't so much have any problems with Michael Caine's performance. For the characters, I thought the guy that played Dolby with a mustache was incredible. I thought the villain, Blue Jay, or I forget his real name. He was,
is it Grantby?
Yeah, he was pretty brilliant. I thought his performance was great, but in terms of motivation,
I think he's just meant to be a foreign agent.
Yeah.
It's not explicitly stated who the baddies are in this, but I'm guessing they're Soviet agents of some kind. It is a Cold War thriller.
Probably.
Yeah.
Right.
So, anyway, afterwards, Dolby briefs his agents, and that the main suspect is Eric Grantby and his chief of staff, codename House Martin, and tells the team to find out where they are at present. So Harry finds them, I thought, a bit too easily, or the way he does it, he has a contact at Scotland Yard who looks up, tries to see if there's a record for Grantby, and he has, parking fines, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I found it weird that he was the only one to think to do that.
Yeah, it was quite convenient.
Mm. And so he's able to find him with his handler, House Martin, at the where was it? I can't quite remember. It was like it was a library, but it was I think it was the British Medical Library or something. It was called.
Yeah.
That's another thing I liked about the films. I loved all the locations. Like,
Yeah.
you don't really, apart from one scene where he's in a supermarket, you don't really see any post-war buildings. So I like that whole. Yeah,
I never thought about that. I thought the way it was shot, the cinematography that was set up for each scene, like, was fucking beautiful.
Yeah,
like the way
it was
everything
really
was just
gorgeously shot.
yeah, it was like monochrome everywhere, apart from obviously that shopping scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is just brilliant.
What did you think of the? There was quite some weird camera angles and a lot of like lower. What would you call it? Like a lot of looking up at somebody, so you're seeing them sort of from. I know you can't see me, guys, but from this kind of angle here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or a lot of shots where the action is happening quite far away, or the subject is quite far away, but there's something in the foreground, like someone's shoulder, or I think in one scene there was a chair.
Yeah, I picked up on quite a lot of that. That was like fucking phenomenal, in my opinion. It made me feel like I was a spy, the way the camera used depth of field to create. You're always looking from behind something, like you are spying on the character. For example, there was this one long take where the door was used, and we peer in on the door without cutting to see House Martin dead. There was also the drum that was used at the gig that they meet at. A drum was used as a zoom in, and the symbol was going up and down, and it was out of focus, and we seen your man Blue Jay coming up. Brilliant.
Yeah. So at that scene, well, just after the scene in the library, there's a brief fight between Michael Caine and House Martin, which is not the best choreographed fight I've ever seen.
Definitely not. It was slightly clunky.
Yeah, and maybe that's why they shot it from such a distance, so it wasn't so obvious that he was just flipping him over continually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's one thing that Bond films do much better than this one.
Action. I mean,
but
obviously,
you're watching a Bond film for action. You're not watching this for action.
No, there's not really much. There's not much violence in the film. Like
no, which I loved because kind of over violence after Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
me too. I've not seen Game of Thrones, but just violence in movies, I'm not that big a fan of. I don't really get it. Like,
it's like I like Wick, but like that's because it's like choreographed like crazy to the point where it's more like kind of martial art, kind of dancing. Than like I don't know. It's the way it's choreographed in John Wick that I actually like enjoy it as an art form, whereas everything else it's either like it's gotten to the point where we stylize it so much where it's so gratuitous for no reason. Like the boom of popularity in Tarantino films and like which is great, you know, love them and all, but like after that everyone was just trying to like not copy but like replicate like what he managed to capture, and it's just is boring now, and it's too much.
I think you need to be an expert to really perfect it. So like a Jackie Chan film, you can watch that, or a Bruce Lee, or a like fucking who's that guy that I was watching? Especially with shootout, John Woo films for shootout are fucking ace, but you need to be a master.
Yeah. Well, there's not much of that here. I think a gun's only used once throughout the entire film. Fired once. There are a few guns.
Yeah.
As I mentioned, there's a scene in a supermarket. What did you pick up? and I made a note of this at the very start. Michael Caine looks at he holds up and looks at a tin of prawn curry. Sounds delightful.
The 60s.
Yep,
What
1960s
great cuisine.
tin prawn curry. Yeah, I kind of like that scene. Like, I kind of like how they kept bumping into people, which made
Yeah,
me wonder if they were filming that in a real. I'm pretty sure it was a real supermarket.
I
Yeah.
really enjoyed the supermarket scene.
Yeah.
On principle, I enjoy scenes in supermarkets anyway because it's like there's something kind of like so. It's like a kind of purgatory almost.
Yeah.
Like it kind of pauses reality for a second, even though it's in a supermarket, which is such a day-to-day thing. But we're not really used to seeing it, like because it's so mundane. So like especially in a film like this, which is about like it is like a more like normal take and like a kind of more grounded take on the spy genre, but it's still a spy film.
Yeah.
Like it's interesting to see like him picking out canned mushrooms and shit
Yeah.
in
Bugs
like
and
the
mushrooms.
supermarket.
Yeah.
Definitely. Favourite supermarket scene in a film is 28 Days Later.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Danny Boyle one where they're getting scran for there. Brilliant. Loved it.
Did any of you at any point find the plot hard to follow? I didn't think it was too complicated.
Nah, not really.
Not hard to follow, but not that interesting either. I didn't really care about
Yeah.
the fact that they were trying to, get their brainwash their scientists. Like,
Yeah, I didn't really. Yeah, I'm same as Daniel. I didn't really care about the kind of overall plot. I just enjoyed like what was happening in front of me,
yeah.
like visually and kind of just like dialogue wise. That's what like kept me interested.
Yeah, I think once it becomes clear what the scheme going on is, that kind of, I felt that was the kind of most James Bond out. Well, it was the most 60s thing out of it. Like just like
Yeah.
so basically, the baddies are kidnapping top British government scientists, brainwashing them and then returning them, and they forget everything they know about science. That's the plot, and
fucking
yeah. I mean, and so
that is so clunky. Like compared to like what how the rest of the film is like done. Like really beautiful shots, really interesting dialogue, like quite interesting characters. The actual plot, it almost feels out of place.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it doesn't focus too much
Third
on
act. Yeah, which is good.
Did you
Christ.
Yeah, the first thing that made me think, hold on, is that how it works? So eventually Grantby says that he can get them back, the kidnapped scientist Radcliffe, and something distracting you at your end, Simon?
Oh, sorry, it's just the weather.
Yeah, I just noticed that as well.
Yeah.
Pushing it down.
It's I might go close my window. Just carry on.
Yeah. Lost my train of thought there. If I can just.
You were talking about what made you think what,
Okay. So they strike a deal with Grantby for Radcliffe's return. So this scene takes place in an underground car park.
Yep.
Both parties. So basically it goes exactly how it's planned. Basically there's exchange for the scientist for money. And my thought is that how it works? I don't think somebody kidnaps a top government scientist and you get them and the government will pay for them to come back.
I mean, classic kind of ransom.
Yeah, but I don't think that's actually.
I don't know how realistic it is.
Yeah, because I've never heard of that in real life, in which somebody actually paid a ransom.
Well, I don't know. It doesn't really happen anymore over here.
You know?
Yeah.
I was able to suspend disbelief for that scene, considering how beautiful it looked with the car lights. Oh, I thought it was just shot wonderful.
Mind you, there was that Italian, not aristocrat, but there was a member of the Italian elite. I think it was in like the 80s, and he was like kidnapped by a bunch of like kind of like was like not like a terrorist organization. It was like an internal group within Italy, and they were like, I don't know, like it's like the Italian IRA essentially, and they kidnapped him and like not the I don't know, they like kidnapped him and they actually got the Italian government to like pay like the ransom for it. I think.
Wow. I wonder what name they used.
They like cut off his ear and stuff.
Yeah. So in that scene, Harry Palmer sees somebody running in the darkness and shoots them, and it turns out to be a CIA agent who's also been following Granby. And then from there, another CIA agent pops up. Oh, so yeah, this is something I noticed both times. So this CIA agent, that was not his voice when he spoke. That was not that man's voice. That was very clearly ADR in somebody else's voice.
I didn't notice that.
Now, remember the bit where he comes to the lecture theatre and Harry Palmer takes his glasses off, and just so you know, the CIA agent is a black gentleman. And even with his glasses...
The only black character in the film.
Yes.
And he dies. Same with the Scottish, by the way.
Yep.
One Scot, one woman, and one black person, and they are the least fleshed out individuals in the whole thing.
No, Jock Carswell was fleshed out. He was his best mate.
His name was Jock.
Yeah.
His name was Jock. Like, you can't, like, that is comically ridiculous.
Is it?
What?
Yeah, because Jock's like it's a slang term for a Scot.
Yeah, but but it's like Mick. It's a stereotypical name.
Yeah, but it's also like it's taking the piss.
Yeah.
Which is like partially why it is the kind of like lighter side to Kane's performance, but still like it's fucking stupid.
Yeah. Anyway, no, Jock's part is another agent. Jock's part is significant. He's the one who works out what Ipcress means. And I'm not. Yeah, that how he worked it out is never really. I mean, it shows that he's got a handbook, and it's called. What is it called? I have this written down here. It's induction of psychoneurosis by conditioned reflex under stress. That's the S part.
Yep.
I'm not quite sure how you would work that out. That Ipcress was an abbreviation of all those things. He just happened upon that book.
Yeah, that's a bit strange that he just goes, "Oh, look at this," and points to different letters on a page, and it's like, that spells Ipcress. You know, you could probably do that with any booklet.
Yeah.
Yep.
But going back to the CIA agent, at first I thought, oh, they've dubbed over this actor, and I felt a bit sad for him. But I kind of looked up him up on IMDb. Where is he? Thomas Baptiste, he's called.
Good name.
Yeah, definitely. I like that name a lot.
Yeah.
He died 2 years ago.
Rest in peace. Up there with Biggie and Tupac.
For fuck's sake.
It's not as good as his Jock, though.
No.
What to say?
No. Aye. Well, it says here he was born in British Guiana, so maybe he just couldn't do an American accent.
Yeah.
So his own accent was too strong or something. He also has the rare distinction of being the first black person to appear on Coronation Street.
Wow.
Well done him.
Yep, as a bus conductor.
Oh.
Nice. What is a bus conductor? Actually, just don't even answer that. It's not to do like, okay, whatever.
God. Do you know what? I can just remember bus conductors before they stopped being a thing. That's how old I am.
Oh, God.
It's like on a train where the guy comes and gets your ticket. It's the same thing.
Oh, right. Wow.
Yeah.
They had that on buses? Oh, yeah, because people could come in at the back, couldn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that
so a
makes
guy
sense.
would come in with a wee thing like this, buy a ticket off him.
Can I get a child day, mate?
Yeah.
And remember when they used to be 70p?
Yeah. God, I know. Or it used to be £1.30 just to get into town.
Yeah.
They were the days.
Capitalism, man.
Now it's £1.10 for a child single, which is just ridiculous.
What did you think of the music?
Fucking loved it.
Yeah.
It was good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Quite
Nice.
quite tonally appropriate. It wasn't too big and
Yeah.
dramatic. It's kind of low key like the film itself.
It was
Yeah.
absolutely stellar. I loved it so much. Fun fact about that is the producer, who is also the producer of the Bond films, produced this, right? He didn't actually like the soundtrack, and he also fell out with the director who made this and banned him from the screening of it. I think it was at Cannes. I might be wrong though, but he banned him from the screening of it.
Yeah, I've got the trivia up here. Harry Saltzman. That's the producer. Yeah, also a producer of the Bond film. And Barry, I can't remember his name. I'm trying to get the name of the composer who also
his
did
name
Bond
is
themes.
Otto Heller.
Otto Heller.
Otto Heller.
Are you sure? I thought it was
Oh no, that's the cinematographer. I apologise.
John Barry.
Yeah, sorry about that. Cinematographer, I'm thinking of.
Yeah, so let's see, where is it? I should have just written this. I should have wrote this all down. Oh yeah, here's a good bit of trivia I forgot to say. So in the novels, the name of the lead character is never revealed. So in the book series, because this is a series, he's a nameless character, protagonist. So Sir Michael Caine and producer Harry Saltzman tried to think of a boring name for the hero. Caine suggested Harry, which Saltzman found rather amusing. Caine then remembered a boring classmate named Tommy Palmer, so Tommy Palmer became his surname. So producer Harry Saltzman hated director Sidney J. Furie for his oddball style and went so far as to bar him from the editing room.
Bar him?
No, bar him. Wasn't allowed to edit his own film.
Oh,
really, it's a stupid move, but it kind of worked out anyway because the direction was, spot on, so it worked.
Mm-hmm.
It was really disorientating, I found, and the kind of unorthodox, and you can use those two words to also describe Palmer just as a character and where he finds himself in this place that he feels both disorientated in, and
also says that so in years following the film's release, the producer Harry Saltzman claimed that he had fired director Sidney J. Furie relatively early in shooting, and that Peter R. Hunt had really directed most of this film, with Furie only being credited as director for contractual reasons. Hunt denies this, however, and revealed that he had in fact tried to preserve Furie's own original vision to the best of his abilities, despite Saltzman's attempt to do otherwise.
God.
I know. Sidney J. Furie also says that he was barred, that Harry Saltzman stole his BAFTA. This is only one side of the story, but
I know. And how do you steal someone's bathtub? That's fucking like a huge thing.
Just nab it.
Yeah.
Terrible joke.
Terrible joke.
Yeah.
Yep. Terrible review.
Terrible podcast.
Yeah, I know. We'll get better. We'll get better. Just haven't found our voice. Yeah, we haven't really talked that much about the actual plot point. So, when near the end, our hero gets captured, and he's taken to what he believes is, is it meant to be Albania?
Albania, yes.
Yes. And then he's subjected to the machine, in which the hypnotism machine. What did you think of that whole sequence, or extended sequence, I should say?
I thought the colours were very vibrant. It was pretty awesome, a bit tedious after a while, but it made me want to like read 1984 or at least watch the movie again. You know, it reminded me a lot of the torture sequence in that, but pretty great. Yeah, I've not seen colours used like that in a 60s film.
Yeah, Simon, what do you reckon?
I liked it, but what fascinated me was, you know how like any time like there's like a kind of like scene like that, or like a brainwashing scene, or there's like something like that makes the protagonist like forget something, and they always like kind of like dig their nails into their hand, or like I don't know, drag something down like their skin so there's a clear mark, so they have like a way to jog their memory. And I saw him doing that, and I was wondering if that was like kind of like originated from this film, or if it was done before that. I found that quite interesting.
Yeah.
To like see him like dig that, it was like a nail into his palm.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that is a thing. I don't know. I don't really know much about what goes into brainwashing. So I don't know if that's a thing that people, in order to, you know, keep away its effects, they hurt themselves intentionally as distraction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Len Dayton may have had some involvement himself with espionage. Like he might have been involved in British intelligence in some way. I might be misremembering that. I'm not thinking of John Le Carre, who's another famous British spy novelist. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spies is probably his most well-known work. Yeah, I think that whole sequence probably dates the film the most. Just the whole colour scheme as well as the sound effects were very 60s.
It was quite Doctor Who.
Yes, it was quite Doctor. That's a
It
good.
was, yeah, it was. Yeah, it was very like early classic Who.
Yeah, I thought it was a good effect. Like,
yeah, like I enjoyed it partly for that reason.
It didn't look too cheesy.
Yeah.
But just the whole aesthetic of it. I mean, it's obviously a 60s film. You look at the cars, you look at the haircuts, look at the way they're dressing, but that kind of, I suppose that's the kitschiest part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, when he escapes, like, he's there for, I don't know, days, weeks even. He wouldn't be strong enough to knock out two men. That was a bit too convenient.
Well, I mean, the way he disposed of the earlier bodyguard outside the library, I forget his name,
House Martin.
House Martin, yeah. So I mean, at least they showed you that Harry could scrap.
Yeah.
That's one way of putting it.
I don't think I've got anything more to add. Oh yeah, I wrote down a list of notes, just things that came to me as we went. So these are in chronological order. Poured coffee too soon. Don't slouch about like a pregnant camel. I like
Great
that line. Yeah.
Great line.
No one else thought to look at Scotland Yard. Okay, the scene where he first talks to, I think her name was Courtney, the female agent, and they have and he goes, when she's in his flat, she says she's been sent by, what's his name, Dolby, to spy on him, to keep tabs on him. Then we find out it was actually Ross who sent her in the end. And then they have a drink and he makes an omelette, and then he says to her, "Do you like music?" Which I wrote, don't most people like music?
Yeah,
it's a bit of a redundant question.
Do you like music? It's like, fuck off, everyone does. Mind you, there was a guy in my registration class in school who didn't like music, but he was a bit strange.
I mean, yeah, I know there's... I mean, like, yeah, I know people like that who aren't huge music fans, so it's not like...
Yeah.
You know, probably been at that at certain points in my life where I've been more interested in other things. I'm not as into music as most people are. I'm more so now, but when I was younger, I wasn't really that into music. But yeah, a bit of a strange thing to ask. As I said, he would never have chopped all that onion in that time.
Yeah.
The bit where there's a raid on an empty warehouse, I quite like the Land Rover, the POV shot of the Land Rover.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to talk about that as well, because especially, like, in modern, like more modern films, when they do like a kind of like POV from the car and then they change to the camera outside, it's such a drastic change of quality because like they have this kind of like janky little like camera for the POV shot and then like, you know, like a really high quality one outside. So it feels completely out of place. Whereas in this, I don't know why, but it was like it was the same quality for both like shots, so it didn't feel out of place at all. And I actually really enjoyed that little moment. And it was quite interesting to see from an older film.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. You don't get
All
many.
right,
You're sorry.
I was going to say that shot was banging, but what you were saying earlier, Callum, about how some of his lines were a bit wooden when he says, "Kick that door in, will you?" or something along those lines. It's just a bit like fucking get a bit of oomph, Harry, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say you don't POV. You didn't get that many POV. I've noticed that POV shots. I haven't seen that many in older films, like films from before the 1970s. So yeah, it just gave it a more gritty tone. Helped.
Yeah.
What else? Not really got much. I wrote 1960s sci-fi noises when they play the tape. The pew 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 pew. That
Very
stuff.
Doctor Who.
Yes. Tin prawn curry. Yuck.
Ugh.
And terrible ADR of Mr. FBI man. That's not his voice. Also, I also wrote down the bit where Michael Caine notices that, as I mentioned before, an African-American gentleman sitting in the lecture theatre. I wrote, a black man, something's wrong with this picture, and he runs up to him and points a gun at him. That's what it came across.
Yeah,
it was like a kind of like roll your eyes moment because it was like, of course it's the black guy that's the problem. Like, I know it's like the 60s, but like, Jesus Christ.
Yes,
he,
I mean...
also, the CIA agent also says that UK officers are trigger happy, which I found pretty ironic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny piss.
Should have said I need to use the facilities. We're still recording.
Yeah, it's more professional.
I was going to ask, I'll wait for Daniel to come back. Probably edit this out. So yeah, the ending. Were you under any illusions that he was going to shoot the wrong guy?
Absolutely not.
No.
Like, come on. It's it's a good film, but it's going to play it safe. It's not going to, you know.
Yeah. Well, it has to follow the plot of a book.
Yeah.
From what I've read, it is quite different from the book. Like,
yeah.
Has most of the major plot points, but just the kind of way it goes about it is quite different.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah, the audiobook of the novel is available on YouTube if you ever fancy listening to that.
Hell yeah!
That's today's plan sorted. One thing that I noticed on the rewatch was Palmer and Dolby are going to meet your man Blue Jay at the gig in the park, and upon rewatching it, I was kind of looking out for how Dolby's actually, you know, conspiring with Blue Jay, and what happens in that scene is instead of going and talking to Palmer...
Sorry, Daniel, can I just interrupt? Just to clarify, Blue Jay is the code name for Grantby.
Grantby. I'll just call him that for now on, sorry. So Grantby approaches Palmer and Dalby and decides to speak to Dalby, which is really strange considering the fact that they've never met, or they should never have met in the past, because it was Palmer that followed up on that lead, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that also... We never found out what happened to Grantby afterwards as well. He kind of disappears from the plot.
Yeah.
in the last, like, well, to be honest, he is still in the final part of the plot, but just there's no mention of him because the film just kind of ends where it ends,
Yeah.
which I'm usually never a fan of, with the film just ending after the final dramatic thing happens. I was going to say that whole final line where Harry Palmer realizes that his superior Ross, who's not the baddie, was keeping tabs on him all along, and he says to him, you know, your plan could have nearly got me killed or driven mad. And he says to him, that's what you're paid to do.
Yeah.
Yep. It's that whole idea that he's expendable.
Yeah.
A decoy.
Yeah.
But he's not special like Bond. He's just, you know.
Yes. So, in fact, another interesting bit of trivia. Harry was offered an annual salary of £1,400 sterling for his new job. This was less than twice the average wage in 1965. Not a fantastic sum for the danger involved.
Definitely
Jesus.
not. Another thing I picked up on during the film was the way when Palmer would pat down one of his suspects to see if they've got a gun, he was very sensual in doing so.
Yeah,
What I say, Michael Caine really like had
the
a couple
60s.
of feels with the buttons, you know.
It was the era of wandering hands.
Oh God.
That was pretty sick.
Yeah. Is that sick in the way they say it now, as in good?
The way they say it now.
Yeah.
These
sick
days.
as in good, yeah.
The resident da of the podcast, yeah.
Somebody's got to fill that role.
So right.
Yeah. Okay, so my final question is, would you be interested in, so I should say there are 4 sequels. 2 of them came out in the cinema in theatres within the next 2 years. And in the 90s, there were 2 made-for-TV movies, and I think they were American productions, and they looked pretty rubbish, to be honest. But there are sequels. The second one is called Funeral in Berlin, and the third one, again, I should have all this in front of me. $1 Billion Brain, that's what it's called. Would you be interested in seeing the sequels?
I mean, do they have Michael Caine in them?
Yeah, he's in all of them.
All right, maybe then. I don't know.
Is it the same cinematographer and director?
I don't know. I definitely know it's not for the third one. It was actually Ken Russell who directed it. Apparently the third, and apparently he was only a director for hire. And the third one's, I think, more like a Bond film where it's a lot more campy and loud and kitschy, and you know, the villains of this massive base in this really weird place like a volcano or something. And
I hate Bond.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I'd still watch it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't, because see if you take out the director from the Ipcress File, Sidney Fury, if you take him out in his style, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed this nearly as much.
Okay.
So it really just depends on whether or not he's directing it or he's got a hand in it.
Yeah.
See. Wonder what Sidney Fury's actually done.
Well, he's done. I looked up his discography and it's pretty fucking shite. Like, well, not all his stuff, but he done like a terrible Superman film.
Which
really
one?
The fourth.
Oh yeah, Quest for Peace. Oh god.
Yeah.
That's not a good one.
No, it's not. That's the. What happens in that one? Oh, it's
exactly what happens.
I do not remember, but yeah, the fourth one. Cinematography. The Iron Eagle films. Yeah, there's not many. I'm just looking at not many that are jumping out of me that are like brilliant films.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a shame.
The guy that directed the sequel, Funeral in Berlin, is Guy Hamilton, and he made Goldfinger, Diamonds Are Forever, The Man with the Golden Gun. So,
all right. So, you're worried it's going to be more like other Bond films?
Yeah, probably. But I'll give it a watch.
Yeah, if they're ever on telly. Do you wonder? I think you've both seen Austin Powers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I take it the kind of glasses motif that he uses, that's probably taken from this film. I mean, it's
yeah,
mainly,
one would assume.
yeah, in the third one, Michael Caine plays his dad.
What's the third one?
I don't think I've seen the third
Gold
one.
member.
I don't know if I've seen that one.
It's one with Beyonce.
Nah, not seen that.
Yeah, oh well.
Was it good?
I mean, I enjoyed it. Like, I've seen it that many times, I could probably say it word for word. I mean, but yeah, I enjoyed it at the time.
Cool.
Yeah, I think that's all I've really got to say in the film. Just, I probably didn't enjoy it so much as I did the first time. The kind of niggly things, like the kind of woodenness of it, and because I sort of knew what was going to happen, I wasn't that so gripped by the plot.
Mm.
But yeah, I like the tone of the film more than anything else.
Yeah, the tone is good, the dialogue's good. I think if I were to watch it again, it would be for those two reasons, and the cinematography, which was interesting.
Yeah. So it's a good film. We'd recommend it. I mean, obviously we've gone for every plot point. We should say, by the way, guys, we do spoiler reviews. So we should have said at the start, if you haven't watched the film, don't listen to us.
Oh yeah. By the way, at the very end, spoilers.
Yeah. Okay,
Cool.
so
the next film we're going to be watching, what's the name of that again?
are we going to reveal it now, or are we just going to leave it to the next? What do you reckon?
Yeah. Next week, I believe we will be watching Nowhere by Greg Araki.
Okay.
Right, got you. And special guest, who is it that's coming on again? Is it the Queen? Maybe?
Oh yeah, yeah. And the ghost of Princess Diana.
Oh,
Yeah,
right,
we-
aye. And O.J. Simpson, I've got his number, so I'll give him a call.
Yeah, he's a bit of a stickler though, so be careful.
I know it was a lot of paperwork. Is he not in jail?
No, he's released.
Oh.
Didn't he rob a house or something?
Oh, did he?
Something like that.
I thought he was dead.
No, he's still alive.
Still kicking it. I'm pretty sure he's on Twitter.
It's the Kardashian dad that's dead, isn't it? His lawyer.
What?
Caitlyn Jenner.
No, the Kardashian one.
No.
The Armenian one.
I don't know. Yeah. Kris
One
Jenner's first husband was whatever his name was, something Kardashian was O.J. Simpson's lawyer.
Oh
See,
God, so he
Batman
was. I forgot about that.
If
Totally
Batman
forgot.
was realistic, I feel like Kris Jenner and whoever, or and Bruce Jenner would be like the fucking parents, you know? If it was actually a realistic fucking depiction of what a rich family's like.
I'm sure they're not all like that.
Well, no,
No,
because
no.
Kris Jenner and Caitlyn aren't from old money. Bruce is from old money.
Is he?
Right.
Yeah, they're not aristocracy, they're like trash with
What does that mean? Like, he's
Anyway,
still got
guys,
Okay,
we've got to wrap this up now.
yeah, okay.
Okay, guys, we went a bit off topic there. We did that several times, but yep, that's it for this week.
Okay.
Hopefully, we'll be here next week. Catch you after.
See ya.
See ya, bye.
Bye.
For fuck's sake.